Welcome back to the DFW Series Racing. I'm Sean McAfee, and we are going to go on a quick tour of the Rudolph's Revenge course profile. If you haven't heard of it, Rudolph's Revenge Endurance Challenge is the hardest mountain bike race in the Dallas-Fort Worth region. It's been described as a mini rule of three and compared to the Bentonville Arkansas fan favorite because of its diverse terrain and the question about bike choice. In this video, we are going to overview a few of the key sections of this route and show off some of the challenges and terrain that riders will encounter. This video will be focused on the 30-mile option. For athletes doing the 40-mile option, they will be doing 2 laps of the Isle de Bois State Park Singletrack. As a brief overview, the route is summarized as follows. Section 1 is 5 miles of gravel going northbound. Section 2 is 5 miles of multi-use trail, or MUT, going northbound. Section 3 is 10 miles of single track at Isle de Bois State Park. Section 4 is 5 miles of multi-use trail, or MUT, going southbound. And finally, Section 5 is 5 miles of gravel southbound to the finish. Section 1. 5 miles of gravel going northbound. The start from the FM 428 Greenbelt Park in Aubrey begins on the iconic Red Truss Bridge spanning the North Fork of the Trinity River. We start with a neutralized rollout from the park and across the bridge. Once onto the gravel roads on the other side, the race is on. For the next 5 miles, aerodynamics, drafting, and positioning are all going to play a role. This is extremely well-groomed gravel, fast rolling, and completely pan flat. The road and gravel racers among us are going to have an advantage on this section going north, but with large packs at the start, the racers with more technical ability should be able to find a wheel to draft off of and hang on. Once you cross the bridge to the FM 455 parking lot, you'll head to the northeast corner of the lot and enter the MUT, the mixed-use trails for Section 2. Section 2. 5 miles of MUT going northbound. This is where the separation begins. The MUT is mixed-use trail designated for hiking, biking, and equestrian use. The local riders affectionately will refer to this section as the horse trail. This means that the surface can get very rough and rugged. Hoof prints dig deep ruts into the clay surface, or they churn up the loose soil into an impassable bog of sand. Entering from the FM 455 parking lot, you'll start on a long, flat stretch of grassy double track. Very quickly, though, the grass gives way to the rock and sand-covered incline going up the dam. This incline is the first true technical section with a few large boulders embedded in the trail and a maximum grade of roughly 15%. Once over the top of this hill, you reach the first of 2 very large sand pits. Stretching between 50 and 200 yards in length, these 2 sand pits lay back to back and will test the strongest riders as they ride or push their bike through. After the second sand pit, you will travel through the tunnel underneath FM 455 to the most picturesque part of this entire route. It goes through a hidden grove of tall pines with pine needles and sandy soil underneath. This section is not technical, but due to the very soft surface, it is extremely energy sapping to pedal through. If you're not going to go at full race pace through this section, there is a historical marker for an old homestead and an ancient chimney standing on the side of the trail. At the end of the MUT trail, you'll exit heading west on the paved park road for 1 mile of either rest and recovery or an opportunity to gain time on competitors. This leads us to the Dorba trailhead for Isle de Bois State Park mountain bike trail, and it's the start of Section 3. Section 3, 10 miles of IDB single track. This is where the fun begins. It's one of the most dynamic and diverse trails in North Texas. Isle de Bois has a little taste of everything from fast-flowing descents, rocky technical climbs, and open meadows filled with wildlife. Deer abound through this section, so keep your eyes open as you may meet a few new friends. The trail consists of 5 looped trails named A Loop through E Loop, and there's plenty of variety and challenge spread throughout the entire trail. But we're going to focus on the 2 most technical loops, that being D Loop and E Loop. So keep in mind, Rudolph's Revenge is intended as a challenge. While there is a bypass on the D Loop, it will be very clearly marked off, and both the expert sections of D1 and D2 are absolutely mandatory for the race. You can consider D1 as the warm-up, with a few rock gardens to maneuver, but overall, very manageable and short. D2, on the other hand, is the most technical section of the entire race and has rock gardens that many riders may never conquer after years of trying. This section of trail is hand-built and would be considered a very raw, old-school trail building design by current trail building organizations. The rock gardens are constant through this section, and for many riders, it may be faster to dismount and walk your bike than to try to ride over them. But this section is only about a mile at most for D2. It will end and the trail will get easier. After passing over the maintenance access road, you'll dive on to Loop E. It follows the perimeter of Lake Ray Roberts with some stunning views of the crystal blue waters as you carve your way through the forest. There are 2 or 3 very technical rock gardens on the E Loop, but the scenery makes up for all the hard parts here. The remainder of D-Loop and the return to the trailhead is still challenging, but you should know that the hardest parts of the event are now behind you. When you do reach the Dorba trailhead after the Singletrack, be sure to stop in and see Vern, our local bike mart tech, who will be providing water refills and mechanical assistance. With the IDB Singletrack now complete, you'll be starting the return trip to the finish on section number 4. Section number 4, 5 miles of mutt going southbound. With the hardest parts behind you, section number 4 in the southbound mutt or multi-use trail is still going to test the mental willpower to finish. While not nearly as difficult as the northbound mutt, the return trip going south is at least downhill. But that loose, sandy, and pine needle covered terrain now has to be covered on very tired legs. Finding the rideable lines, avoiding the deep sand, and maintaining momentum is absolutely key. The faster you go through this section, the easier it will be. Find the edges of the sand pits for the best lines, but once you go through the tunnel, you are then on the descent to the easy riding gravel for section number 5 to the finish. Section number 5, 5 miles of gravel going southbound to the finish. The last section of our race course, the southbound gravel on the Greenbelt, can be the best part or the worst part of the race, and it's often completely dependent on the wind and weather. December in Texas often has some very wild and windy weather, and generally it is always blowing directly north or south. If it's blowing to the north, you are in for 5 miles of headwind and a very tough push to the finish line. It may be worth finding another racer to exchange turns in the wind with so that you get some relief from those. If it's blowing to the south, however, welcome to the good life, as you will be flying down this gravel road at a very easy pace of 15 miles per hour plus. Once you cross the iconic Red Bridge at FM 428, you'll be able to cross the finish line as a Rudolph's Revenge finisher. We hope you'll join us for Rudolph's Revenge this year as we end the 2023 season with our biggest and best event all year. Visit our website at dfwseries.com for registration links, trail maps, and category information. Have you ridden the Rudolph's Revenge route before? What sections to you were the most memorable or the most difficult? I'd love to hear your experience in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.